Oh, hi. Yeah, I was just about ready to make something delicious with this meat over here. And what we have are 4 pounds of ground turkey. And you're probably asking yourself, what are we going to do with all this turkey? Well, I got a solution. Now, according to Kitchen Nightmare Chef Ramsay, whenever he would do a revamp of an Italian restaurant, he would always suggest meatball sliders. Meatball sliders are so simple to make. So tonight we're going to make them for you tonight, because I've been watching a lot of Kitchen Nightmares lately, and now I'm getting addicted to meatball sliders. I want some, and tonight we're making them. So here's the way we're going to take our ordinary, standard, everyday, run-of-the-mill ground turkey. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add flavoring to that meat, because right now it's bland, it's flavorless, it's seasonless. So we need some Lipton onion soup mix. And the way we take 4 pounds to it, we probably only need just the 2 envelopes. So, join me now as we add 2 envelopes of Lipton onion soup mix. This is going to be your flavoring. There's 1 envelope. And since we're working with ground turkey, it's going to be a lot more moist than ground beef. So, we will not need eggs for this. So, you got your Lipton there. And to add an extra hold to your meat, you always want to mix breadcrumbs. Why breadcrumbs? Well, it helps to form and keep the shape of your meats when you form the meatballs. We're going to start off with a little on the top, and we're going to work with our hands, and we're going to knead all of that into our meat until it's all mixed in there, ready to go. So, leave no piece of meat unturned, uncoated, unseasoned, untouched. We're going to get our hands really dirty with this and just really knead all of that flavoring until it's all evenly distributed through this big bowl of meat. And you see some of the areas here where it'll cluster. You just got to keep kneading away at it and just grabbing and kneading as you go. Oh, and you might sling some meat here and there, but that's okay. We're in a clean sink. And all it takes is just to pick that bugger up there, put it back in the bowl. It always helps to have a clean kitchen before you start on anything like this in case of any accidents that happen. So that way your kitchen will still be as clean as you prepare your food. Keep on kneading that stuff. Yeah, get that stuff all through your meats, all over the place, all through your meats. Now, I prefer adding more packets of the onion soup mix for extra flavor for 4 pounds, because what I added was perfect for 2 pounds, but for 4, I prefer to have 4, 1 envelope per pound. That's just me, though. But this will add just enough flavoring to make a difference in your meatballs. This is how we do it from scratch with ground turkey. Okay, get all that excess meat back into the bowl, and adding more breadcrumbs. Probably going to need about a half a container for 4 pounds, because there's going to be a lot that needs it. And what this is going to do is it's going to help keep the form of the meatballs when we make them. Yeah, so this not only will help keep your form, but it'll also be very flavorful, because we're using the Italian blend, and that mixed in with your onion is going to give you a very unique flavor for your meatballs here. So once all of that is worked in, and it feels alright, you might not notice much with the breadcrumbs being used in the meat, but it does make a difference. Now for sliders, you gotta kind of form meatballs to size, and then what we're going to do after we form them is they're going to go right into that skillet right over there on the oven, and they're going to brown, and once they're browned, then they're going to go into that pot over there, which will hold our marinara sauce. So it's going to be a very tasty dish, and then we'll show you how to go from there. So let's go ahead and rinse, because I probably got all the meat off of my hands that I could possibly get. I'm going to rinse all the excess meat off, because we are going to need to handle other kitchen supplies. And it's always best to rinse constantly if you're working with meat.
Now clean.
Yes, they're clean. Now, over here, we're going to need this lid. Also, just a tad bit
Of oil?
of olive oil. What you want to do is just add a splash or two. Just that much, just enough to coat the bottom of it. We don't want our meatballs to stick. We definitely don't want to ignore our meatballs when they're being cooked.
Yes, sticky meatballs are very bad.
Yes, they stick to the skillet. One side of the meatball toasts, the other one does not. You want an even flavor all the way around. And we'll just let that sit for the moment. And we don't even need to preheat that. Go over here and grab our bowl. And what we're going to do, we'll set our bowl in a place where we can get at it. And just reach for some meat.
Yes, a centralized location does help.
Yes, yes it does. And what we want to do is about the size that you would make a hamburger patty is about the size we're going to make our meatballs. And look at that size of that meatball. That's going to go on a slider real well. And we got some slider buns that we're going to show you later that those are going to go onto. So you want to get enough to where it'll fit right up to your fingers, right like that, and just make a ball. Okay, and then again, grab just enough meat to where it'll go from your edge of your fingers to the edge to edge of your fingers and just form a ball. And that will be the ideal shape of your meatballs for meatball sliders. And also most spaghetti recipes will also have meatballs this big, especially if you're Italian. You'll have bigger meatballs than this, actually. But the bigger the meatball, the bigger the Italian culture. And we are going to make quite a few meatballs on 4 pounds of ground turkey. Although most Italians will argue that the best meatballs are made with ground beef, not ground turkey, but we're not Italian, so that's okay. Okay.
I feel like I'm living a lie.
Now you're probably only going to be able to make a few at a time. Just make enough to where it'll fit the skillet. You really don't want to stuff them and cram them in there because you do have to roll these around as they're cooking. Now by doing this too, if you work with bread, with dough, or even with meat, transferring that one from one hand to the other and just throwing it against your hand, it removes a lot of the air pockets that are in the middle.
Ooh.
Especially with dough. And for working with ground turkey, you'll need to do that a lot too.
You've done this quite a lot.
Oh yes. I've made me many different sizes of meatballs, from the smallest of Swedish to the largest of Italian. And it's all thanks to my mama, who taught me.
Do they shrink as they cook?
They do.
Oh.
It depends on how much fat is in these meats too, because the fat is what makes them shrink. If you have low fat, then it's not going to shrink by much. If you got a lot of fat, then they will shrink quite a bit. Let's turn this on. Alright, and turn it on to a medium low. I'm turning it on to 4. And what we're going to do right away is cover it. Now, slow cooking and covering ensures that they're going to cook from the inside out, not the outside in. As if they cook on the outside and not enough on the inside, your meat in the middle is going to be raw, and you don't want that. You want to slow cook it and bring the middle up to the same heat as the outside, slowly, but not too fast. And not too slow either, because we want to eat sometime tonight. So I'm just going to put that in there for the moment, while we reach over here for probably my most favorite marinara sauce in the world, and it's brand new from Prego. I've tried this, I love it, I stand by it. I found a favorite marinara sauce. It is the Merlot marinara, with just a hint of Merlot wine.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes, they actually include Merlot wine in with the recipe.
Sounds good.
Wet
Sounds
hands,
wonderful,
it's
in fact.
almost impossible to open up a jar. But
There you go.
there we go. Now, what you want to do is you want to get it into a nice big
Watch
pot.
that drip. Oh, that is beautiful.
Get it into a nice big pot. And if you have too much room in your pot, it's a lot better than having not enough. So dunk that sauce in there. There we go. Okay, as much as you can get in there. And go for your second jar. The second jar is going to be...
That smells wonderful.
The second jar of Prego Merlot marinara. Here goes the second jar. There it goes. Yeah.
Wonderful smelling. Just
It
purely wonderful. And there's and it still has a few steps to go through that too.
Oh, actually, with this sauce, you just dump it and leave it alone. I
Really?
have no other ingredients to add to this. This is how good this sauce is.
Wow.
Because a lot of you out there know that when I get sauce...
He's a connoisseur of this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As you know... Now, as you know, whenever I go to a grocery store, I never find a sauce good enough to where I have to keep adding ingredients to it. This, I don't have to add anything. It's perfect the way it is. And this is why I say this is the best marinara sauce you'll ever find on the market. It's called Merlot Marinara, and only Prego makes it.
I shall give my opinion on this later then, since I love them. Favorite sauce.
Now, what you want to do with that is you want to get
Something to roll them around with.
a spoon, and look, it's starting to already heat up. You don't want to leave these standing too long.
Oh, one side's already starting to brown top
yep.
softly.
So once you got one side done, turn it over, roll it over to the other side, and let the other side cook a little bit. Now, the olive oil is also going to give it a nice Italian flavor, but it's also going to help cook your meatballs thoroughly. And it's already starting to cook really well. Try not to have them stuck together too, so just kind of push them apart there like that as you're turning the rest of your meatballs, just like that. Oh yes, these are going to be really, really good meatballs. There we go. That one's a perfect one. If you can get it like that, that is perfect. Not too charred on that one side, not too charred, not too charred. Sometimes you'll get a good charring on them, but sometimes there's not much you can do to help that along. But just keep continuing to watch your meatballs. And it's almost like stir fry. And cooking meatballs like this is almost like teaching kindergarten. You don't want to turn your back on them for too long because then they'll start to get disruptive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cooking is an awful lot like that, just like raising children. There we go. I'm going to put that on too. That doesn't need to cook very hot because we are dealing with a sauce, and sauce is very quick about cooking.
Trying to get this even. There.
Let me show you the slider buns that we're going to be using. These are brand new from Pepperidge Farm. Bakery Classic Slider Potato Buns. And these are perfect size for those meatballs, as you can see.
Well, everyone knows how wonderful potato bread can be.
Oh, yes.
Let's see it one more time, the size.
Size comparison.
Just perfect.
It is perfect. And all you need to do is just throw this on. You know, we're going to marinate it, of course, in the marinara as it cooks even more. But we're looking to brown this. Now, a little tip for you. You never, ever, 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 ever want to put raw meat in that sauce. Never. And I'll tell you why. Because you can contaminate your sauce, and it won't cook all the way through like a traditional meatball will. So you have two reasons not to put that directly into the sauce. You put it in there after it's browned, but you cook it in a way where all that sauce will be able to meld with the flavor of your meatball.
Ooh, that is drippy.
Nicely. Yes, it is.
And there is one more reason too. Be absolutely soggy. Just deary and dreadful they'd be.
Oh yes, and very flavorless. Now, as you can see, by covering it up like that, it's already starting to cook on the sides. So, go ahead and turn those back over again. And anywhere there's red, just turn them on the side. Cook them all the way around. And keep on turning these over because you don't want to toast these for too long. You want even toastings because they will toast quick. You want to constantly turn these. Constantly turn them. Just like that. You don't want them to be too toasty on one side and not enough on another. And by doing so, your meatballs will come out perfect all the way around. You will get rave reviews from everybody you prepare this for. Cover this right back up again. And now that we're pretty much done with that, what we're going to do is reduce the temperature even more. Once they're brown on the outside, reduce the temperature as much as you can before that flame goes out. And look at the sauce over here. It's already starting to bubble. See, not much heat is required to heat up sauce.
That is amazing.
Yep, and that's just on gas mark 2. Now, when you get to this point, you can actually roll your meatballs around like that.
Have them get a nice, even cook.
Yep.
And also to look really professional, too.
Yes. But you also need a steady hand and a strong arm in order to do this.
Make sure you hold that on there tight because of the grease in there.
Grease will splatter everywhere, and if you have too much grease splattering, then it could cause a grease fire, and that's something you don't want in your kitchen. How to test to see if your meatballs are ready to go into the sauce. First of all, with a knife, make a little hole in the top. And if you don't see any pink in there, that means they're ready to go. I don't see any pink, do you? Now with a spoon, just gently drop them into your sauce. If it's a big stock pot, then just slide them down the side of your stock pot. Don't plunk them in because you're going to get sauce everywhere. Just gently guide them down into the sauce below. That's all there is to it in making meatballs. Just slide it on down. These are going to be savory meatballs too because they have been cooked with the utmost care and a lot of heat.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to push some of those out of the way, get some of them mixed in there. There we go. Alright, now, we're going to let those cook up real quick. And we're going to turn that as low as possible. We're going to turn you off, because right now we're not using you. Okay, now I'm just going to give you a little fair shake. And all we got to do is just make sure all those meatballs are going to be covered really well with the marinara, and for the rest of the way it's going to bake. It's going to boil right there in that marinara.
Are you sure? Not even vinaigrette?
No, because it's you get plenty of that acidity from the Merlot wine.
That is awesome.
Continue. We're making up the rest of these meatballs, so we don't want all that to go to waste. Definitely not. And even if we have some extra meatballs,
I'd say we probably will, just by judging on the
we
sauce.
probably will, yeah.
Well, we need more grease, or not grease, oil.
Let me just put that. No, actually, because there's plenty of it in there.
That's what I was thinking.
Because that's still the same amount of oil that we.
Wow, that doesn't use much oil.
No, it doesn't. All you need that to do is just to help heat your meatballs and cook them evenly.
Yeah, it barely skims
Gives them a little flavor too. Okay. Continuing on with making our the rest of our meatballs. Make that meatball. Any of our Italian viewers have mothers who are Italian that says, make that meatball? Make that meatball! Make that meatball! I wonder if they actually have like different callings in the kitchen. Different catchphrases that they would use in the kitchen too. I know a lot of Italian people would. Now I noticed that a lot of the breadcrumbs have kind of got
sort of bottom
down on the, well, actually no, just in that one area.
Oh, cool.
Okay, well, just when it gets to that, just give it a good mix with your hand there. Get it to really mix in well. And sometimes when you put on all those breadcrumbs, they'll go right to the bottom and stay there. So you just give it a good mix. And we should have enough sauce to go around, actually. So fingers crossed, and my fingers will be covered with meat, that we will be able to have enough sauce to accommodate the amount of meatballs we're making, and hopefully only making two sessions of these meatball cookings. But I'm thinking that's exactly what it's going to be.
Might have like one more meatball than we did before, which could go in the center.
And the last meatball for the last spot in the skillet. I wonder what Gordon Ramsay would think of these sliders. Of course, if I was preparing for Gordon Ramsay, I'd actually add vegetable in with my meat mixture. I'd add a bit of green onion, chopped green onion, maybe some shallots. Really impressive with what I can do. Washing the hands once again. You don't want to get all that E. coli all over what you're working on. Now we're going to take this and transfer it right back onto here.
Shoot.
Turn this back on and cook it down same level as before. Alright,
This
now.
is on low. Oh my
This
gosh.
is the lowest.
It must be that, it must be the wine that they have in there, maybe.
No, it's the sauce.
Really?
So anything saucy you put on a flame, gotta make sure you cook it on the lowest flame you can. And I have it on the lowest flame. I mean, there is hardly any flame coming out of there, and I turned it down even more. And as you can see, browning your meatball, then cooking it in marinara, you get a perfect coating of your meatball. That's the way it's supposed to look. Now, if you put straight raw beef in there, it ain't even going to coat. It's just going to run right off. And it's not going to cook the way it should. So remember, always remember that rule. Never, ever, ever put raw meat in sauce. Never. You brown it first, then you add it to the sauce. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get this oil to heat back up again. Same thing, same way as we did before. We're going to take extra precaution in making sure that these don't burn. And they're already starting to brown up. Look at that.
Yeah, they are looking pretty nice.
Yep. So try your hardest not to disrupt the shape of your meatball, because then it would be a patty slider, and we want these to be meatball sliders. So just turn them over with a spoon. Best to do it with a spoon because of the divot.
Ah.
See, if it's a
no
spatula,
pulling of grease, huh?
if it's a spatula, you're going to have a little bit of a difficulty in trying to balance your meatball when you flip them. Use a spoon, or if you have to use the edge of a spoon too, but if you have to, use a spoon, and that extra divot will help conform to the shape of your meatball as you turn them. See? It works oh so good. If you want to flip patties, then by all means get yourself a spatula. For meatballs, use a spoon. That's what I always try to use. Because if by any chance you go to flip your meatball and something gets thrown out of shape a little bit, use the spoon to shape it back up again. There we go. Take the lid and whoa, watch out for the sauce. Move it back. There we go. And we will have just enough room for the rest of those meatballs.
I just can't believe how much it's going off. It's increased in size by those meatballs. They've displaced the sauce about 2 inches or 3.
Yes, well, it's because of
density.
density. It's because of density against the amount of liquid that you have when you add solids to liquids. And it's the density of the solids that help raise the level of the liquid. It's just like that old Aesop's fable about the bird, the thirsty bird, and there was only just that much water in a can, and so another bird came along and thought of a great idea to put stones and pebbles into the can to raise the water level so the other bird can drink out of it. It's an old fable, old, but if you compact your meat, they'll stay together. That one we didn't compact, but these ones we did, as you can see. If I can just
it's amazing how many things you must compact. You must compact, or else they could explode, or because of the air pockets.
Well, because of the air, it's not going to hold together its shape very well. But if you compact it like this, you know, I'm like
got a pretty browning on it. That is for sure.
I'm flipping them like crazy, and it's not coming apart. However, this one was not compacted, so it's crackling, it's breaking. You know, it's very soft. It's very delicate. So always remember that handy compaction of tossing it from one hand into your other, slamming it basically into your hand so that way you remove all that excess air in there. That's what's really making your meatballs crack. So, see, all of these other meatballs that we did that to,
they look beautiful.
They look beautiful, except for that one. That one's still crackling. But that's okay. It's okay.
Well, you did that as a demonstration after all.
I did. Okay, that juice is coming up clear. Look at that.
That's what I was thinking.
A little bit rare. A little bit medium, actually. That's a little bit medium. So, that's what I wanted to check and see. We're almost there in adding those meatballs to that sauce. Almost there. Because I did see a little bit of red juices come out, and that tells me that they're medium rare. Not well done, like the way they should be. So, we're going to make them well done.
Okay.
And all it's going to take is probably about, give or take, 2 to 3 minutes in, covered up, and in a steady heat. An occasional swish to get them to rotate. You don't quite know. When you're removing your meatballs to go into your sauce, that oil is going to crackle and it's going to splatter. So be very careful. Have as much tolerance of the heat as possible, because you know what they say, can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. This is where that saying came from. Can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. That one flopped in.
He wanted to go in.
Yeah, they all wanted. Like, sauce, Geronimo, get me out of this hot oil. And all it takes is just a little smidge, of olive oil. Now we're going to carefully stir the meatballs in with its brethren, and hopefully it'll all fit, because these are some big meatballs, and I had at least needed one more jar of marinara.
Yeah.
I at least needed one more jar. But meatballs this big, you have to have at least 2 or 3 jars of marinara sauce for these size of meatballs. So, with a little luck, that should do it. And if need be, take the ones that have already been cooked, move them to the top, and move the new ones in their place.
That's what I was sort of thinking.
Yep. And then just move that up to the top, move that down in its place. Try not to break apart the other meatballs that are in there, because we don't want meat sauce, we want meatballs, and that's a really good meatball. Not spicy now, but this is going to be a sweet meatball because it's made with Merlot, and it's going to sweeten. It's going to add an extra tang to your sauce, and especially to your meatballs with that Merlot. And if you can't find Merlot from Prego, then you can always add a splash of Merlot wine, or do what I do if you don't even have Merlot wine. See if you can find red wine vinegar.
Oh, that's good. That is perfect for this cooking.
Oh yes, yes it is. And that will add the perfect zing and zest to your sauce, especially your marinara. There we go.
Good.
All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cover this up with this lid and just let that cook for a little bit more. And while we do that, let's put a few of our items away. Clean as we go. Make sure we don't leave too big of a mess. And what we're going to do is we're also going to use ultra thin sharp cheddar from Sargento. Now I like to let my cheese sit out at room temperature. That way it helps melt a lot faster. When you pull this right off. If you have cold cheese, then it's going to make your dish cold. But if you let that sit at room temperature as you make your food, you know you're not going to have bad cheese. It's going to melt right along with your food as you put it together. A little secret in the kitchen there. So, what do you say we put one of these together and show you what a meatball slider looks like?
Heck yeah!
Alright, so let's go over here. And since this one is the off,
excuse me,
the off choice, this one is the off choice here.
I think that'll look better, like the color.
Oh yes. So what we want to do is, of course, separate our buns. Very, very careful with this one, because this one's kind of... let go, let go.
No, I love my other half.
There we go. We salvaged it. Okay, what's the top and what's the bottom? Okay, that's the top, that's the bottom. Okay, so bottom. There, oops, bumped the camera. Okay, take one meatball. And one meatball. Try to get the ones that are covered in the sauce, just like that.
Hang.
And if you want to, take a little bit of the extra marinara. Just
drip on top.
Drip it on the top and let it just run right down. Doesn't take much, just a little tiny bit off that spoon, and just let it run right down. Okay, now quickly, grab some cheese. Now I'll show you what I mean when the cheese melts as you work with it, because this is hot stuff. This is real hot stuff. Now, grab the cheese. And
it's a nice piece of cheese.
Oh yeah. So I can put it right on top there.
Oh, it'll melt onto the meatball, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already starting.
Yep.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yep. And I like using sharp cheddar. I love my sharp cheddar.
I think a lot of people do use sharp cheddar. It's a really good basis.
The cheddar, the better. And the best cheddar to get is from Vermont. And then top that on the top. And there you have meatball sliders. It's very easy to make and so good too, and these will go a long way. And you know that you have plenty of room left over for your other slider. Now we're going to see how well they fare with the rest of the fam in the other room there. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these up and surprise them with meatball sliders. And look at how the cheese, like I said, melts over the meatball. And you see, that is my idea of the perfect meatball slider. You see that? Doesn't that look good? And as you can see, we're all ready to scarf on our meatball sliders. And it's so simple that anybody can do it. And if you follow this recipe, you can do it. It's very simple. Now where's that kitty at? I want to make a kitty cat slider. Meow. No, I don't think kitty cat wants that too well. So, for cooking with SonicBlu, this is SonicBlu Darkfold, and I'm going to enjoy some meatball sliders, and I'm pretty sure everybody else is too. So keep that spatula moving, keep that spoon a-stirring, and remember what I always say, if you're not cooking good, you're definitely not having my meatball sliders. Now let me show you the...
Oh yeah, these are the best.
Let me show you the slider buns. This is brand new from Let me try that again.
Pepperidge.
And the tighter that you roll them too, the less chances of them cracking on you. Because the last thing in the world you want your meatballs to do is crack under pressure. And I know about cracking under pressure, believe me. So, continuing on.
Freddie Mercury did too.
Yeah. But he did that with David Bowie.
Yeah.
Under pressure, pushing down on me, pressing down on you.
And on these meatballs too.
On meatballs too.
Yeah.
King of Prussia, it's right by Philadelphia, where Anthrocon was held once upon a time. Yeah, I'm making a really random parody here. I should stick to meatballs.
Say it one more time, just so they absolutely know, because they need to know.
Okay, never, 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 ever, ever, ever put raw meat in sauce. You brown it first, and then you add it to the sauce.
Now you have no excuses to say that you didn't know.
That's right. So, that's how we learn a lot of scientific neato facts. And then we learn later on the technical names for it. Density. You know, it has mass and takes up space. That's density. Destiny, that's the person of your dreams. I can't help you with that. Contact Dr. Phil.